welcome to today's episode of Authentic Achievements, where it's my absolute delight to be joined by the fabulous Ken Rusk. Ken, welcome.
Good morning, Kim. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm so looking forward to this conversation, and thank you for joining us so early. I know it's morning where you are and afternoon where I am, but I'm really looking forward to it. But before we get started, let's tell the people watching and listening a little bit more about you. So Ken's a best-selling author, an entrepreneur, and a blue-collar advocate that proves there's no degree needed to achieve comfort, peace, and freedom. Ken spent his younger years digging ditches and working in construction before going on to be a serial entrepreneur and best-selling author. I mean, what a journey, Ken. Can you bring that to life a little bit more for us, please?
Well, yeah, I mean, quickly, when I was younger, I always had part-time jobs. My father he provided for my four brothers and I in a very small house, and he could do basic things like shelter and food and basic fun stuff. But if we wanted more than that, then we had to go out and get things for ourselves. So, I bought my first aluminum baseball bat when I was 13 years old by trading labor for that particular item. And it was just something that I got used to doing early on. So when I was 15, I wanted my first full-time job, and my high school shared a fence with an industrial park next door. And we used to cut through that hole in the fence and go to the carryout after school to hang out. Well, at some point I needed to get serious about my life. So I got my first full-time job working at this ditch digging company, which was in that industrial park. And, I worked there in the summer times digging ditches. In the wintertime, I worked in the office. And when it came time for me to go to either go to college or to graduate high school, they came to me and said, we could offer you a position where we're going to open franchises around the country. And we think you're really qualified to do that because you've seen both the front and the back of the house, as they say. So I literally did that for 3 or 4 years and got tired of living out of a suitcase and then moved to Ohio. I moved to the western end of Lake Erie in a small town called Toledo, Ohio. I opened my first company in 1986 with about 6 people. And I think we have 200 today. So it's been a heck of a ride.
Well, that's quite the growth story, isn't it, for that organization? But I love that whole starting young. It made me smile. I remember doing very similar. Me and my brother had paper rounds and that from the age of 11. My dad was very driven on you work for it, you want it, you work for it. You kind of, it sounds like we possibly have similar-ish methodology from those parenting, but I think it gives you such good stead in life, doesn't it? Which is to go actually plan for what you want and then take action to go and get it. And you've clearly done that again and again, and taken that control of saying, actually, well, how do I make this happen? So what does success look like for you?
Success looks like, obviously, when I wrote about it in the book, it's just comfort, peace, and freedom in whatever version that is. We're not all going to try to be, rap stars or influencers or, whatever, celebrities, whatever it might be. Some of us just want to lead a really comfortable, peaceful, and free life. And so as long as you're chasing your own customized nirvana, which is what I talk about a lot in the book, as long as you're chasing whatever that is, and that makes you feel like you're the whole person that you want to be, then that's it. So success for me is looking in the mirror and saying, I'm comfortable with who I am. I'm at peace with what I've done. And I have the freedom to be spontaneous and do what I want to do in life. So that's kind of like the triple threat answer for you there.
Oh, I love that. And finding your own nirvana can be quite hard, can't it? Because we're brought up in a society that tries to tell us what the nirvana should look like, and that it should look a certain way, and we should achieve it in a certain way. So how do you go about defining your own, like moving away from that norm and saying, actually, no, for me, this is what nirvana is going to look like?
Well, I would say, if you stood in a crowded street corner and you asked everybody several questions. Hey, can anyone tell me what my favorite color is? Can anyone tell me what my ideal car would be for me? Can anyone tell me what my favorite vacation spot is? Can anyone tell me exactly what my favorite house might look like, or my sport, or my hobby, or my health moments, or my charity moments? Can anybody answer those questions? the answer is nobody could do that. Nobody can answer those questions. So why are you allowing a society then to dictate how you're supposed to live your life? You and only you know the answers to all those questions. So I would say sit down, trust your instincts, trust the fact that you know what these things are and nobody else does, and then just start drawing them out and creating a puzzle or a picture of what you want your life to look like, and then just start chopping that into a little tiny pieces and steps and pathways, and then you're on your way to making it happen.
Oh, I love that, because nobody does know us as well as we know ourselves, but sometimes we forget that, don't we? And we start to let other people's voice or other people's opinions become greater and more important than our own, about us, about what we're doing, about where we're going. And actually, once we have the courage to go, well, actually, I know me, I know what makes me happy, and that as long as I'm not hurting anybody else, it's okay to do the things that make me happy, and to focus on those. But I love the kind of the systematic approach that you've just shared with us. So work on what it is first, then break it down into smaller goals and steps that you can take to move you from where you are to achieving those goals. So you've really created quite a reusable strategy that people listening and watching can take on board, isn't it? Which is, it's your goal, it's your dreams, whatever it is for you, the person watching or listening. But actually, a way of achieving it is to visualize it, bring it to life, and then break it down into actionable steps. And then I guess the important bit is to then take the action, because a lot of people might do the first bit, but then not have the courage to take the action. And without that, we don't move forward, do we?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of what I write about is, I think the word goal is a tough word for most people, because if you have a goal of something, you kind of think, well, someday that might happen for me. Okay. If I have a goal of something, well, maybe that might show up in my life somehow if I'm lucky. Well, I would rather have you replace the word goal with the word pathway. What's my pathway to this particular thing? What's my pathway to that particular thing? Because when I look at a path, I see clearly defined steps, direction, maybe something that's been forged for me before. I'm not the first one to walk this path. So I think you need to be really, really careful that you don't think of goals as something that you hope happens to you someday. A lot of us tend to lead these if-then lives. If I do this, and if I get that education, and if I get this scholarship, and then if I get this degree, or if I get this job, and then if that job pays me, then I can start living my life. I think of it in completely backwards terms from that. I want to know what your then looks like at the very beginning. Okay. Yeah. You can't build a puzzle without the box. So I want to know what the box looks like. Okay. Otherwise, it's going to be a very long journey for you to try to put that puzzle together. So if you can articulate and then draw out and allow the visual side of your brain, the most powerful side of your brain, by the way, to create this vision for yourself, then what you've done is you've put your body almost involuntarily on a path to achieve or manifest, or whatever you want to say, attract those things into your life. And we don't do that. And I don't understand, because it's free to do. It requires no training whatsoever. You already do it and you don't even know you're doing it, but yet you don't apply that same principle to life. And I think that's where the challenge lies.
That's so true, isn't it? Because I think often people I meet, they're very clear on what they don't want, but they're not very clear on what they do want. So you're like, okay, so you don't want any of those things. So that's brilliant. What do you want? Where do you want to go? And I think our brains are a little bit like, I always class them as a little bit like my sat nav. The first thing you need to do with your sat nav is tell it where you're going. And the second thing you need to do is tell it where you are. Because without those two bits of information, it can't calculate the pathway for you, can it? It can't tell you what the journey is and what those obstacles are. And so kind of how you're viewing life is to go, okay, here, I'm clear on my destination. I've got the jigsaw box cover. I know the picture I'm building. And now I'm going to work on actually, what is that sat nav route that's going to take me from where I am today to deliver me to that destination? I love that psychologically, the change of that from it being if then to actually I'm in control. This is something that I'm driving, rather than giving the power elsewhere. Would that be a fair summary?
Well, that's exactly right. Two things happen. Either life happens to you because you give it the power for that to happen, or you happen to life, meaning I'm going to affect every day that I'm on this planet. Sometimes people will say, hey, Kim, let's go to lunch sometime. And you're like, yeah, let's go to lunch sometime. And then you both walk away and it never happens. Okay. Somebody has to pull the calendar out and say, hey, Kim, how does next Tuesday look at noon at, such and such restaurant?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Brilliant. Let's have it. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, because we all know that someday never shows up. That's why it's called someday, right?
Yeah.
But today is another factor. And I think, especially when you start to get beyond middle age in life, okay, you start to realize that time is probably the most important asset you're ever going to own. I mean, I have a collection of cars. I have other things that I do. I love my life. I travel. I've been very blessed. And I'm very grateful. But the time to do those things is more important than anything I'm ever going to acquire in my life. And the memories I create with those things are really the things that I get to hold on to more than anything else. Cars, boats, golf courses come and go. But the memories you create with that, the pictures you take, those are the things that really matter. So I think if I can do anything as someone that is a little past middle age, I can pass on the advice that do not waste one moment of time in your life, because you're going to find that, holy cow, did that go by fast?
Yeah.
And holy cow, did I worry and fret and fear and frustrate over so many things that didn't even matter in my life? And I know you hear that a lot, but it's absolutely true. I'm one of those guys who can't believe that I am where I am right now. I'm like, holy cow, where did some of that time go? But I had an absolute blast every minute of my life. I wouldn't change a thing about it. And I think that's kind of like my best ability now, is to it's incumbent upon all of us to share that type of experience with those coming up behind us, so that they can cut the learning curve down.
Oh, I love that. And it's so true. And it becomes even more apparent to me now that I'm a mum. So like my little girl is coming up for 8, and I'm like, where did that go? How did we get to 8? I mean, equally, I'm a little past middle age as well. So you get those two. And I think sometimes we've kind of got life backwards. So we plan everything for a time when we're going to retire, and we're suddenly going to have all of this time to do the things we enjoy. But by that point, our children are off with their lives doing their things, and we've missed out on that. So no, I completely agree. I think being present in the moment, and it's the one thing we can't, to your point, you can't buy more of. You can't, no matter how rich you get, you don't get to buy more time. that is the thing that is a given. And I was reading, I think it was in Stephen Bartlett's book, about the importance of being intentional, in the time that you take. And he actually shares, and I've got one here actually. So he has one of these dotted around his house, and every now and again he turns it over to remind him in that hour to be really conscious of, is this really how I want to spend this hour? Are these the memories that I want to create? Are these the decisions that I'm going to be happy with, because I don't get that hour back? And it really helps from that driving you into being purposeful, which brings me to what is your mission in the world? What's your drive?
Well, it started out with, I wanted to build a group of people that could all succeed together. So one of the things that I always say is, I can't get what I want, nor can my company get what it wants or needs, until all of you get what you want first. And I absolutely believe that, because companies, organizations, whatever you want to call it, they're linear creatures. There's input on the one side. In the middle, there's work, there's creation, there's product or service, and then there's revenue or sales, and then hopefully there's delivery, and then there's profits. Well, as the owner of the company, you're always at the end of that line. So why wouldn't you want everybody in front of you to win for themselves constantly? Because if they're in this environment of, I can certainly win for my own life with and through Ken's company, you're always going to win in the end. And for you to surround yourself with as many people as possible that are gaining the things that they want for their own selves, that their own lives, that we document here on the walls of our office building, then you've got something there, because now you have the power of everybody winning, and you're going to win big at the end of that game. So it's my purpose is to get up every day and make sure that all of the people in my organization are chasing or anticipating something great in their lives, and then watching them win. And then as soon as they do, okay, now what's next? And that is probably the most fun way to work. And I'll just give this piece of advice to anyone who runs a company. If you want it to be successful, become as irrelevant to it as you can personally, because then that allows you to drive the company and watch the mechanics within work. But it also allows you to get spontaneous enough to create these wins or help people create wins for themselves. And then the whole thing goes way further than you could take it yourself. Trust me on that one.
I love that, because very often we can get too wedded into being part of it, can't we? One of the things I work with clients, the first thing I say to them is, what's your exit plan? And so many of them don't have one. And I was like, if you don't have one, this business that you're working so hard for doesn't survive you, but neither does it survive for your people, for the people you serve, your clients, or for the people that you also serve as provider of their salary and their lifestyle, and the colleagues. And so we've got to be able to be making sure all elements are successful, haven't we? That if the colleagues are successful and achieving something that's important to them, and the clients are successful in achieving something that's important for them, then the company will be successful and achieve something that's important for it. But I love that whole becoming making yourself not indispensable but dispensable, but so that you can therefore continue to help shape and support, but have that more holistic helicopter view where you're less in the detail. Sometimes when we're in the detail, we can't see the wood for the trees, can we? Because we've almost become part of the problem we're trying to solve. And so taking your approach to step outside of that, and also it strikes me giving permission to the people in the organization to be part of the solution of how the business really grows and develops is the game changer.
Well, there's two things. There's entrepreneurs and there's entrepreneurs. Okay. I've been accused of being one of those entrepreneur guys. Okay. But then again, there's a lot of risk involved in that. When you're buying 42 dump trucks, or you're buying, you have all the liability and all the risk. There is the reward that goes along with that risk. I understand that. However, there's plenty of people around you that probably would fit a great role as an entrepreneur, where they feel like they are running their individual departments almost like their own company. And they're running their own input, their output, the quality of the output. They're running the financial side of things, the results. And what happens with those people is they feel like owners, even if they're not, but they also get paid like owners, because if you set them up to say, this is where the company currently is, this is where the company could go, or where do you think the company could go, and you get some buy-in to where it could go, well, thanks. Now, if we get to that place, I'll share some of this revenue with you. And that's what really empowers people to allow you the space to float above that building. And I've used that helicopter analogy a lot in my career, looking down and seeing what needs done. The fun part about that is, if you have all these entrepreneurs, or I should say entrepreneurs, surrounding you, then you as the entrepreneur get to look down upon this thing and say, okay, where can I plug myself in? Where do I need to be? And it gives you this whole new feeling of, I'm actually running my company. It's not running me. And that's the biggest problem, Kim, because so many people have these egos attached to their position, and they're terrified to let it go. They're terrified to allow 10 brains to work as good as their own brain, okay? Which is always better. You have so many people that are like, I'm the chief yeller in charge. I'm the chief screamer. I'm the chief motivator. I'm the chief everything. I work 80 hours a week. I have diabetes and high blood pressure, and I'm not gonna be long for the world, but look at me go. And I think that's the difference between someone who is truly free is the one that can let that go, guide it still, but allow the people to make it work for you.
I love that. And I think at some point I've possibly been guilty of the hours, not of the having to feel like I controlled everything, but feeling like I had to demonstrate the value I was adding, tangibly demonstrate it, until I learned that actually the value I was adding was in empowering everybody else to be the best that they could be, and to bring, their whole potential to the arena, and see how that grew and how that developed, and how I guess for me, one of the big learnings was when I learned to stop being wedded to needing to be right. So when I realized that just because I'm right doesn't make the other person wrong, and just because they're right doesn't mean I'm wrong, we've got a different perspective. And actually, if you get curious about that different perspective, we can see something that neither one of us could see without doing that piece of work, because we were blindsided slightly by our own blind spots. And I love that, because you're allowing that to go and to let go, you are raising it up, and therefore you're able to see where there might be some blind spots between what people are doing, and plug yourself into that to help them shine a light on that.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it funny how that works? We tend to think that if we show the world that we're in an office building for 60 or 70 hours, that's good enough, because that we're proving to them that we're dedicated, committed, or we have ownership. Baloney, okay? The true driver, the true entrepreneur in all of us is one that creates successful pathways for other people to walk, for other people to explore and discover, and then benefit from. So it's just so funny how I feel like I've worked, once I've learned this process 20 some years ago, I feel like I work a lot less now than I ever have. But yet I still have more influence than I've ever had, because of the vision side of things. And that's the real magic. I mean, if you put yourself in position to say, okay, where do you guys want to take this thing? How far can we go? Here's the rewards if we do. Now let's go make it happen. They will look back at you and say, hey, thanks, Ken. Now get out of our way and let us do it. And you have to be careful that you're not your own self limiter. Okay. Right. So it's a beautifully freeing way to work, and I encourage anyone to give that a shot. And it's one of the reasons I wrote Blue Collar Cash, is to tell people, this is kind of the way things can work in this fashion.
I love that, because you're breaking tradition, but with quite a traditional organization, but demonstrating that actually there's always an opportunity to evolve, to do things differently, to seek new perspectives, and to not be afraid to not be the one that knows the answer. Because I think that's often the challenge for people, isn't it? That they feel like they've got to know the answer. And it's like, actually, you don't need to. You just need to know who to ask the question of. It always reminds me of that, I think it was Henry Ford who got taken to court where one of the newspapers was trying to prove he was an uneducated man, and spent all their time asking really impertinent questions to demonstrate that he wasn't educated. And eventually he lost his temper slightly and went, can I just ask, I sit in an office with a box, and if I needed to know the answer to any one of those questions, I would press a button and the person who knows the answer would come and tell me what I needed to know. And at that point, everybody realized that is not the answer of an uneducated man. That's the answer of an educated man willing to do things differently. And that has always resonated with me. But it sounds like you're putting that into practice and saying, I don't need to know everything. I need to surround myself with the right people who are going to help, who will know those answers, who will see directions that I might not be able to see. And I'm okay with that, because I can help shape them to achieve that direction.
Well, you have to put it in this perspective, Kim. What's the goal here? Is the goal for you to walk around this earth and say, look at me, look at how powerful I am, look at the fact that I can answer any question? Or is the goal to say, I'm going to create an amazing life for myself in conjunction with creating amazing lives for the people around me by empowering them to make decisions? And they can make some wrong decisions sometimes. You have to guide them. But just to be able to say to myself, okay, I truly am involved in making the world a better place for lots of people. Yeah, I think that's ultimately the goal here. And so for anyone out there that, again, is saying, yeah, but I do this and I do that. Trust me, there are other people that can do this and there are other people that can do that. And yeah, you just got to give it a go and let go a little bit and allow that to develop.
I love that, because it is about having that confidence that actually where you're going to add value is in being able to help people to see. One of the things I remember when I first went into coaching, and somebody went, all right, so you think you're better than us? And I said, no, that's not how coaching works. I said, like, if you think about every top athlete, every top business person, every top politician, every top actor, they've all got a coach. And if that person really were better, it would be their name we knew.
Right.
The point is, I said, what you need is somebody who can shine a light on the bits you can't see, because we have blind spots for a reason, and our people have blind spots for a reason. They can't see them. But what we can do, if we're really focused on empowering them to be their best, is we can help them to shine a light on those so that they can then find ways through them and go on and find the next lot of blind spots that they can grow and learn from. And I always think that's the greatest gift in life, is when you see somebody achieve something they didn't think was possible, that you saw in them, that you knew if they could just see what you could see, that they would. Is that something that you find happens all the time in your organization?
Well, yeah, because I think everybody, people think, as I said before, people say, well, you're lucky you're one of those entrepreneur guys. Well, okay, here's a piece of paper and some crayons. Okay, I want you to draw entrepreneur for me. Okay, you can't draw it because it's a concept. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
So, but yet, the characteristics of an entrepreneur, things like persistence and resilience and faith and courage and initiative and vision and tenacity and generosity, those things all are in every one of us. We just need a reason for them to come out. And that's why I always say, I want to know, and I want to start with, why are you here? Why are you working here? What are you after? Let's get beyond you getting paid. Let's get beyond your bills. What are you looking to create for yourself? I want to know what that is, because I want to hire all of you, not just the 1/3 of you that works here 8 hours a day. I want to hire all of you. Okay. I want to know what you're after in your personal life, as much as you're willing to share, because I'm going to help you get there. And I'm only going to do about 3% of the work. You're going to do the other 90% or 7%. Trust me. But if everybody had a reason, if everyone had their why clearly defined, and I mean clearly defined, drawn in expert detail, almost like a brochure for your life, then those little characteristics come out in every one of us. And that's why I believe it is so important to get them to understand that you really do control today, tomorrow, the next day, next month. You control what your life's going to look like. All I'm going to do is help provide a vehicle for you to make that happen.
I love that, because I think, very often that's the bit we're lacking, is that having taken that time to provide that real clarity to ourselves on what is the life we want to create. What is it that we're here to do? And for me, I always start with the why am I doing the thing that I'm doing? And then my second one is, who am I doing it for?
Right.
Very often the who I'm doing it for will be bits for me, bits for my little girl. But knowing those two elements gives me the added oomph to go into those uncomfortable places sometimes that you've got to go to as to make things happen, and to go, well, hold on, I'm doing it for the right reasons. I'm doing it because it's driving towards the why, and I know who I'm doing it for. So I am appreciating that I'm going to give positive impact to people. And that can really help. And giving that to your people, giving them that opportunity to help, to let you be part of the solution on them achieving that, must be such an empowering position that you're giving them.
Well, for me, it's all about watching them cheer each other on. I mean, we have this giant black glass board in the hallway. It's huge. It's 8 feet by 8 feet. And we have these really brilliantly colored markers that you can draw on this board. And all the goals are put up on this board, and they're all in intricate detail, down to the dollar amount, the time frame, they're signed, they're dated, when the completion date is, and their names. And everyone gets to high five each other. So in my world, I walk up and down the hallway and I just watch their goals being happen. I watch them progressing. Some are almost done, some are halfway done, some are just starting, but there's a lot of high-fiving each other in the achievement of these things. And that, to me, is the real secret sauce of running a company or running a group of people. That's for sure.
I love that, because you've got that, when I say common goal, they might have individual goals, but the common goal is that all succeed, that everybody, you rise together if you're all in it together and building that camaraderie. Ken, I could chat to you all day, but I'm very conscious of time. You've already shared such amazing insight. Could I ask you, though, if you had to go back and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, there is no doubt it would be to trust that you know what's best for you. I've said that earlier. There is no doubt that we spend a lot of time, and maybe even a few, too many years, thinking, what do other people want me to be? Okay, what's the expectation for me? What does society want me to be? And that is just so backwards now. I mean, I started coaching people almost involuntarily as I grew my business, back when I was 23 years old. And one of the things I learned by the time I was 30 is that you really do know, and you really do have all the answers. You just have to give yourself the confidence, and you have to give yourself the permission, and you have to find a quiet place to let those answers, come out, to put them down for you and for all to see. You know what's best for you. Have the confidence and have the character, I should say, to just do it. And you're going to be the best version of you. I promise you that.
Oh, I love that, Ken. I say it to my little girl every day. Our life goal should just be the best version of ourselves. And every day we should try and be a better version of ourselves. Not better than anybody else. We're not the only person that you're trying to improve is yourself. And if you can be your best you, then you're pretty much winning at life. Because you're
amen to that. Yeah, amen to that.
Ken, before you go, can I ask, how do people get in touch with you, and who do you help?
So I wrote the book, and I also built a course around the book. It's 8 sessions. It's 45 minutes per session. It really gets you thinking about who you are and who you want to be. I have it on my website at kenrusk.com. It's very inexpensive compared to most courses that are $2,000-$3,000. I think they're charging $179 for this thing, and you get a free book. And I donate all that money to charity anyway. My life was good before I wrote this book, and I'm eternally grateful and very blessed. So if you want to find me, you can go to kenrusk.com and see the book and the course there. And you can also follow me on socials at Ken Rusk Official.
I love that. And the book's called Blue Collar Cash, isn't it?
Blue Collar Cash. And the course is called The Path to a Successful Life.
Perfect. And we'll make sure all of the details of how people can get in touch with you and all the details of the course and the book are in the show notes below. So anybody listening and watching, you'll be able to find them if you just read the notes below. And I highly recommend that you follow Ken and have a conversation and take on board some of this, go inward and work out what's the best you want to be and how's the pathways to get there. Ken, it's been an absolute delight. Thank you so very much for coming and sharing your lived experience, your journey, and your advice on how to help everybody live their best life.
Thanks, Kim. Great to be with you. Have a great day. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a lovely day too. And to everybody listening and watching, I hope you found this as insightful, inspiring, and igniting as I did. And I'm definitely going to revisit whether or not I've got true clarity on how I'm going to be the best version I can be. Until next time, take care.